gods are with me, I'd like to take her out once a week, sometimes once a fortnight, but with everything else that comes with retirement, grandchildren and the like, there isn't always the time, so it's as and when. Whenever we take the car out, we choose the route fairly carefully. It has to be a fairly quiet road. I don't want to go into too much heavy traffic, so it only goes out on the weekends. We favour a trip from here at Fareham out to Bishop's Waltham, across to Corehampton, back up the Meon Valley into Fareham and back home. That's a round trip of 27 miles, which warms her up nicely, and she's really begging for more at the end of it. On occasions we'll go down to Gosport, along Leonsoe in front, into Gosport and back home. Custard was named by my wife. I never had a name for a car, but that was the name my wife gave her. Her history goes back to 1954, when she was bought by a very interesting gentleman by the name of Basil Caterns. Now that probably means nothing to most people, but at the time he was the chief cashier of the Bank of England, and I do have an old pound note with his signature on it. So there's a little bit of provenance in this vehicle. My cousin acquired it in 1965 from Mr. Caterns, and I took it on from my cousin in 2008. I love the shape of them, I love the lines of them, I love the smell of them, I love the simplicity of them. It's something that turns heads. I can take this car out on the road and Sandra will be sitting next to me and she will see people turn round and stare at us, and I think that's nice. They don't do that with too many modern cars because they all look the same. I'm proud to take her on the road, and it enables me to show off. I've always dreamed of owning a Riley. I fell in love with Rileys when my cousin's husband bought a 1949 1.5 litre RMA back in 1956, I believe it was. I loved that car immensely and always promised myself one. Unfortunately, with the way life is, I didn't achieve that goal. And then it came to my retirement and I started to think what I would like to do with my retirement, and one of those things I had on the list was owning a classic car. Cut a long story short, I was invited to my cousin's house one day to look at an oak table which we were wanting for the kitchen. It wasn't quite the right thing, but next to it in the garage was her Riley, the one we have here. And I said to my cousin Joy, what's happening to the Riley now that David's past driving? And she said, it'll have to go. And I said, well, give me the first option. A day or two went by, she phoned me, are you interested in the car, Dave? She said, and I said, too right I am. You can have it, she said, it's a gift, it's yours, but I will make sure it's fit for the road before you get it. And she put it through the garage, got a full MOT on it, and I've been the proud owner of it since May 2008. It doesn't have to be expensive to run an old classic if you know what you're doing. I'm mechanically minded, so I tend to do most of the mechanics myself. To insure this for the year, fully comprehensive with legal cover, is about £85, and that enables me to drive it for full 12 months of the year, which is very good because some insurances only cover you for 6 months, so I've got a full year's worth for £85. Running costs, spare parts can be expensive. You don't get them unless you belong to the RM club. I belong to that club for obvious reasons. I can get the spares without any problems. The one story that I like to tell more than others is the dynamo which packed up on this car some years back, and I had to send that off to Huddersfield, where the spares department was for the Riley Club, and I put it in a shoebox all nicely padded out so it wouldn't fall out on the way. I posted this with my cheque for £75 for a replacement reconditioned dynamo. I posted that on Tuesday in our local post office, and I got a return on Thursday of the same week with a brand new, as new edition Dyno. That, I think, is testimony to the club. They provide an excellent service. At about the same time, I ordered some replacement wipers for my wife's Ford Fiesta. Fairly common car, plenty of those on the road. Ford main dealer, a mile down the road from my house. How long did it take me to get those? A fortnight. My most memorable experience has got to be the time when we were driving through Gosport and so many people turned round to look at me as I was driving through. That's got to be my most memorable occasion, I think. If I go back to the day I took it on, I've never forgotten that, because it coughed and spluttered on the way home and I thought, what on earth have I got here? Luckily it was only a minor problem, and I certainly put that right very quickly. But I was told by the garage that maintained this vehicle before I took it on, it needs to be driven. It's an old car. It was built to old standards. It's built on a traditional steel chassis. The body is fully coach built, and that means it is timber framed with steel body over that. This car in particular was very, very modern for its day, because it had rack and pinion steering. It's an overhead valve engine operated by two camshafts within the block. It's got hydraulic brakes throughout. It's got torsion bar front suspension, which means you have independent front suspension. It was very, very up to date for its time. And even now it would hold its own on the motorway at 70 miles an hour. When I knew I was going to take Custard on, I had nowhere to keep her, because we only have one garage, a single garage, and two cars of our own. My car always stayed on the drive and my wife's was always parked in the garage. I tried locally with friends and contacts to find somewhere where I could store this car and also work on it when I needed to. There was nothing forthcoming apart from a large hangar type shed at Borden, I believe, and you could only get into that on the odd occasion. So it wasn't very satisfactory. So the answer was, keep it at home, in my garage, talk nicely to the wife, and her car now stays outside as well as mine. I hasten to add that the garage is centrally heated because most of the pipe goes through it, so the car's kept nice and warm.